Hello FPL managers and welcome back for another video. My name's Jack and today we're going over the buy hold sell for Gameweek 17 to help you guys with your transfer planning. If you guys are liking the FPL videos, drop a like and subscribe as there is going to be lots of FPL content coming your guys' way shortly with the return of the Premier League season, and click that notification bell to stay up to date with all of the recent uploads. And with that being said, let's jump into the video. So in today's video, we're going to go over 3 buy, 3 hold and 3 sell options to assist you guys with your transfer planning for the upcoming game week. Of course, there is unlimited transfers going into Gameweek 17, but having a look at some of the most transferred in and transferred out players so far, we are going to give you guys some recommendations on what players you should include in your essentially wildcard teams for Gameweek 17. Starting off with the 3 buy picks, the first one here is Darwin Núñez. He has been very popularly transferred in by a lot of managers coming into Gameweek 17, and we really like him as well as a great forward pick. Obviously, if you are going for 3 premiums in either De Bruyne or Salah, and then Haaland and Kane, it's going to be very difficult to fit Darwin Núñez into your teams. But if you just have either a 2 of those previous premiums that we listed, Darwin Núñez should be a lot more affordable. So for example, if you're looking for De Bruyne, you can also pair him up with Haaland and then run Darwin Núñez as that second premium forward up top. That could definitely be a good choice to tick off that Liverpool attack. And Darwin Núñez was in some superb form before that international break for the World Cup. So if we can recapture this for Liverpool, I'm sure he's going to be a great pick as well. He also did get himself a goal in the practice match that Liverpool had in the build-up to the restart of the Premier League season. So it's good to see him back on the score sheet for the Reds. Of course, he is coming in at £9 million, so a little bit cheaper than Harry Kane, which I seem to think is the main player that people are going for Darwin Núñez over. His ownership is pretty low as well, with just a 13% ownership right now, so it could be a good differential as well to help increase the rank. He does have Aston Villa away as his next fixture, so a great chance for him to capitalise on some points there. And Liverpool's extended run of fixtures as well is quite good, so if you're looking for a nice long-term pick before you do get that second wild card, Darwin Núñez could be that sort of set and forget option up top. He does have 5 goals and 2 assists this season, which is pretty decent for the number of starts that he has received, with a 5.33 xG and 2.58 expected assist stat, which is definitely a good tally per 90 minutes. He doesn't have the greatest predicted points in Gameweek 17 with just 2.8, but I do think he can outperform this, as this Aston Villa defence hasn't been great so far this season, and if a Liverpool attack can fire, I'm sure Darwin Núñez can get involved in the goals up top. Moving on to the second pick here, it is a very nice differential pick, and is a player that is in our personal teams as a wildcard team for Gameweek 17. It is Rodrigo. He's just coming in at £6.3 million in the midfield, and a great differential option with just an 8% ownership right now. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him just because he has that tricky fixture in Gameweek 17 against Manchester City, but after this fixture, Leeds do have no matches with an FDA rating above 3 from now all the way up until Gameweek 25, so definitely a great set of 8 fixtures after this fixture here against Manchester City, and Rodrigo was carrying in some absolutely superb form into the international break, obviously before the World Cup. In his previous 4 games, he did record 5 goals for Leeds, so that's absolutely massive in terms of goal output, and he has been very, very good since he started for Leeds as well, with 9 goals and 1 assist. He does just have an XG of 5.51, as he has been very clinical so far this season, but of course that is what you do want for any FPL asset, is to take their chances. And then with a 1.26 expected assist stat as well, it's okay. Obviously, he is mainly a goal scorer with his 9 goals, making him one of the highest scoring midfielders in FPL so far in terms of goals tally. His predicted points for Gameweek 17 obviously isn't massive, as this is a tricky fixture against Manchester City. But if you do want to have him in your teams for Gameweek 17, just have him on the bench like we're doing, and then look to start him after that. He could definitely be a great differential to add to your guys' midfields. And then to round out the third player that which we would recommend having in your Gameweek 17 wildcard squads, it's Ben White. He's a player that's also been very popular recently. He's been transferred in by quite a few managers coming into Gameweek 17, and that is partially due to the fact that he has recorded 5 consecutive returns for Arsenal coming into the World Cup break. He is also just priced at £4.7 million, which is a bit cheaper than a couple of the other Arsenal defensive assets. So I do really like Ben White, as not only as a cheaper option, but also as a more differential pick with just an 11% ownership. He does have West Ham at home as his next fixture as well in Gameweek 17, so a great chance to jump on those Arsenal defensive assets, as they have been very sound at the back this season. Ben White personally has recorded 8 clean sheets, and he has combined this with 2 assists as well. He doesn't have the best expected assist stat of just 1.19, but he can chip in with the occasional attacking return, which is always handy. But the main reason he's in your teams is for those clean sheets, and he does have a pretty good expected clean sheets figure of 7.8, which does rank amongst the top teams so far this Premier League season, and he is actually projected to score fairly well in Gameweek 17 with a predicted points of 4.2, and obviously for a player of just £4.7 million, that is a decent tally. But I do like Ben White as a good rotational option if you do have a bad fixture from a player in the rest of your teams. Ben White can come on and start, hopefully pick up a clean sheet for Arsenal, and then you can always drop him back down to the bench if you do prefer starting another player. So definitely a great rotational player to have in the squads from Gameweek 17 onwards. So let's now have a look at the hold picks. These are players that have been heavily transferred out of squads by managers coming into Gameweek 17, but we would recommend you guys keep them in your wildcard teams, as they still have some good fixtures coming up or do have good predicted points. The first one here is Alexander Mitrovic, and I did find it quite surprising to see that he ranked in the top 3 most transferred out players coming into Gameweek 17, but I do really like Mitrovic. It's a great pick at just £6.8 million in the forward line. He could be a very nice value option up top. His ownership is fairly high with 20.3% right now, but this obviously has dropped quite a bit across the international break. Fulham also have some great fixtures coming up, as not only does Mitrovic have Crystal Palace away in Gameweek 17, he also has a double game week coming up fairly shortly, so I would definitely be keen to hold on to Mitrovic for at least the next 3 to 4 game weeks when he does have that double game week. And he has good fixtures building up to this as well. Not only this, but he has great underlying stats as well, with a 7.79 XG, which does rank amongst the top players so far this Premier League season, as he has registered one of the most shots on target out of any player in the Premier League so far. So definitely very good chances that he's getting for Fulham. He is their main goal scorer, of course. He's getting lots of service from his teammates, and that has shown in the 9 goals that he's scored so far this season. Obviously, he isn't much of an assister, as he hasn't got an assist so far this season. He does have a decent expected assist stat of 1.55, which he has quite significantly underperformed, as he hasn't got an assist so far. But I do really like Mitrovic, and it's a player that I would hold on to instead of selling ahead of Gameweek 17, as he obviously does have that double game week coming up, has some good fixtures in between now and then, and he has a great expected goals figure as well. The second one here is Wilfried Zaha. He has also been heavily transferred out, and I think he's quite a controversial pick as to what to do with Wilfried Zaha if you've got him in the teams or you're thinking about getting him in the squads. Personally, I wouldn't mind holding on to him. I don't think he's the worst option, as he does have 2 great fixtures coming up in Gameweek 17 and 18, and then potentially you can look to transfer him out after that. But with Fulham at home, especially in Gameweek 17, and then another great fixture in Gameweek 18 afterwards, he could be a very nice short-term punt and a great rank riser with just an 18.3% ownership right now. So if you're tossing up whether or not to have him in the sides, it could be worthwhile spending that £7.5 million in the midfielder slot, and then potentially downgrading him to either a Martinelli, who's also on this list, or another midfield option as well that you think could perform quite well, whether that be Elmron as well, as Wilfried Zaha probably has 2 of the best fixtures across the next 2 game weeks compared to most other midfielder picks. So if you are looking to spend a transfer in 2 to 3 game weeks, you're looking to book a transfer in, maybe Zaha could be a good short-term punt and then switch him out after that. He does have pretty good underlying stats so far as well, with 6 goals and 2 assists. He's got a 5.28 XG and 1.46 expected assist stat. Obviously, he's on penalties as well for Crystal Palace, which does help with his goal tally, and he is expected to score very well in Gameweek 17 with 5.1 predicted points, and that is the main reason why I'm encouraging managers not to sell him from the squad, as I do think he's a great short-term pick if you're looking to book in a transfer and move him out of the squads in 2 to 3 weeks' time. Moving on to the third hold option, Martinelli is also quite a heavily transferred out player coming into Gameweek 17. I don't really see the reasoning for this, as at £6.8 million, he is one of the highest scoring midfielders at this price or less. Obviously, Almiron has been very good for Newcastle as well. He's a great pick at 5.8, but I do like Martinelli at 6.8 million as well. Obviously, because Arsenal do have that double game week in Game Week 23, so that's a great chance to have Martinelli in the side, capitalise on those extra points, and he does have good fixtures from now up until Game Week 23 as well, highlighted by West Ham at home in Game Week 17, which is a great chance for more goals for Gabriel Martinelli. He has returned 5 goals and 4 assists this season, so definitely a strong output for a player of his price tag. His underlying stats aren't as good. He has been very clinical at taking his chances. He just has a 3.35 xG and 2.97 expected assist, but for a player of his price, this definitely isn't the worst, and he does have a pretty good predicted points of 4.3 for Game Week 17. I am hopeful that he can outperform this against West Ham at home, as I do think he's a very essential option to have in the middle of the park for your squads. He does allow you to spend a lot more money around the teams as well, as at just 6.8 if you pair him up with Almiron in the midfield. Those are two fairly cheap midfielders that you can rely on for a decent point source, which allows you to have either 2 or 3 premiums in your team, which I definitely think is the way forward since the premiums have been firing recently, whether that's De Bruyne, Salah, Kane, Haaland, and now Darwin Núñez is presenting himself as a great premium asset as well. So with the buy and hold options in mind, let's discuss the sell picks. These are 3 players that I would recommend avoiding for your Game Week 17 wildcard teams. And as you can see here, the first player is Ivan Toney. He's also been quite a discussed player as to what to do with him when the Premier League does resume. But personally, I'm going to look to get him out. I'm not looking to have him in the team, for Game Week 17, as he does have 3 fairly tricky fixtures in the next 3 game weeks, with no matches in his next 3 weeks having an FDI rating of under 3. He does have Tottenham at home as well in Game Week 17, which isn't the easiest fixture, as Tottenham's defence has been pretty stingy so far this season. They haven't conceded a massive amount of goals. Toney is coming off 13 points in Game Week 16 though, which I can see as that being a main reason why people are looking to get him in the sides. But personally, I'm not too keen on him at 7.4 million. I just think Mitrovic is better for the short term, and then after these 3 bad Brentford fixtures and after Fulham have had that double game week, then maybe you can look to switch Mitrovic to Toney. But I would be keen on starting Mitrovic or even Callum Wilson in the teams for Game Week 17 before you swap him over to Toney, just due to that poor fixture run in the first 3 weeks back for Brentford. As obviously, I would prefer Wilson and Mitrovic for more goals across the first 3 to 4 game weeks with a return to the Premier League, and there's no reason why you can't go to Toney after that. His ownership is sitting at a similar percentage to Mitrovic as well, sitting at around that 20% mark. He obviously is 0.6 million more, and that is why I do prefer Mitrovic, at least in the short term. Toney obviously has been absolutely superb this season with 10 goals and 2 assists. He also does have one of the highest XGs out of any player this season with 9.89, and he also has one of the highest expected assist stat amongst forwards with 2.37. He is actually projected to score quite well in Game Week 17 against Tottenham at home, but I'm not sure if this Tottenham defence is going to get breached too heavily by this Brentford attack, so I'm not too sure if he can provide an attacking return in this fixture against Spurs, and then Brentford obviously do have those 2 tricky fixtures after. So not saying that Toney isn't a good option in 3 to 4 weeks time, but in the immediate future, once the Premier League does resume, I wouldn't be massively keen on having Toney in the sides. Moving on to another forward pick, it's obviously a pretty obvious one. Jesus was not going to be playing in Game Week 17, so definitely a good player to get out of the squads. He's coming at £8 million, and as we've touched on, Wilson's a good pick, Mitrovic is a good pick. You can free up a little bit of money by getting rid of Jesus in the teams, as I don't think he's going to be good to go for Game Week 17 and onwards, so that is why he's obviously a good transfer out. He's been pretty good for Arsenal so far this year, just looking at his numbers with 5 goals and 6 assists. He has significantly underperformed his XG of 8.44, as he hasn't taken as many chances as he should have. But once again, in a similar boat to Tony, when he does return for Arsenal, there's no reason why he can't be a good pick as well. And if he can return in time for double Gameweek 23, I'm sure he'll be keen to cash in on some points with 2 fixtures combined in that game week. And then looking at the third player to avoid or sell option for your Gameweek 17 wildcard squad, it's Perisic. He has featured on the sell list quite a number of times in the buy, hold, sell. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of Perisic, as I'm sure you guys would know if you have been watching the series. He is coming in at £5.5 million, but just does not play enough games for Tottenham. He gets too heavily rotated out of that Premier League squad. And now, with other domestic competitions coming into play, that is going to take his time away from the Premier League if he is playing those midweek games, which obviously will tire him out for those weekend matches in the Prem. Also, if there is any double game weeks, I don't think he's going to be playing both fixtures, so there's no real advantage of having him in the squad for a double game week where Tottenham have a double game week in any given week, as I only think Perisic is playing a maximum of 1 fixture anyway. He is very good when he plays, to be fair to him. Not saying that he's not a good player when he does play, it just doesn't play enough games for Tottenham to be a reliable point scorer in FPL. He has recorded 3 clean sheets and 4 assists so far, which is pretty decent for the number of stats that he does get, but he just is getting subbed on or not playing in too many fixtures. He does have Brentford away in Gameweek 17, which is a good chance for a clean sheet. Saying that though, Brentford's attack has been fairly strong at home this season. His underlying stats are also fairly good, with a 2.7 expected clean sheet stat and 2.86 expected assists, but once again he just doesn't play enough minutes, and that is why he only has a 2.9 predicted points in Gameweek 17, as there is quite a lot of uncertainty around Perisic's minutes across the season. So definitely a player to avoid, as at £5.5 million he's not a good value option, and there are lots of players that are better than him around that price. Or if you want to drop down to a cheaper defender such as Ben White, as we touched on earlier in the video, I do think that is better money spent elsewhere. And once again, since there are lots of good premium assets in the game right now, and lots of managers are looking to use triple premiums, spending that extra money on Perisic probably isn't worth it for the points return that you're going to get back. Thanks for watching today's buy, hold, sell for Gameweek 17. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it useful. And if you're looking forward to some more FPL content coming up in the next few weeks, click the like button and subscribe, as it is going to be coming thick and fast, which will mean you will have to turn the notification bell on so you don't miss any future FPL videos. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.